it's kind of the idea that I think people are getting mad at is the idea that it's like kind of anti-consumer. It's like, you own this game, right? And you like everything about it. Maybe you like the panty shots, maybe you like the artwork and everything is shown, maybe you just like all that, and that's fine. If that's your thing, that's cool. The fact is that I bought this, and now a patch that was then put out there from a developer now could take away something I like about the game. Is like what got people a little bit more up and right. Really the specifics of it being Skullgirls, it's like whatever. Like I don't know how you guys have been, if you kept up on it a whole lot, whether it's you guys here or you awesome listeners at home, work, wherever you're listening to on the show on. Skullgirls, right? Skullgirls has been a target of some discussion lately, arguments, conversations, and review bombs as of late. I don't know if you've been aware, but there's been a big thing when it comes to the censorship of the game. There's been a big patch that has come out that censors a lot of aspects of the game for I don't want to say for today's society or some shit like that, but it's really like their official statement when they talked about the patch. They were talking about, you know, fixing just certain aspects of it that, you know, so many people have, you know, been involved in the game, that they've discussed with the teams and internal teams and such, and just be like, hey, you know what, we should probably update some of the graphics, some things, some symbolisms and things that, you know, might not be too kosher today, right? Like, or maybe some things that hit maybe a little bit too close to home. And they have since patched whether it becomes, you know, it's cutscenes, artwork in the digital art book, and even in animations as well. And this is nothing new. This actually has happened before. They've done like patches in the past about it, but this one for some reason it's just like getting people really PO'd. And we're gonna talk about it. It's this patch has caused an overwhelming amount of negative reviews recently. I mean, overall the game of its 23,000 or so reviews keeps it very positive. And yes, the game is still fun. The game is still awesome. It's still, like I've stated it so many times before, is just one of the best looking 2D fighting games ever. Like it's just like ever, like, you know, especially when it comes to animation, there's only two that really come to mind. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really great animated fighting games, but there's just two that will always be just the top two, the contenders. So it's always been Darkstalkers and Skullgirls. And for me, it definitely changes a whole lot over time as to like who's number one, because there's just so much stuff that Darkstalkers had in there, like that they just did not have to do, but they did, and the presentation because of it just makes it such a unique game. And then Skullgirls just takes that and, you know, turns it to 11 on so many different aspects and modernizes it and makes it such a unique game. So this patch, like I said, that they've rolled out has caused a bunch of issues on a 12-year-old game now. 12-year-old game, right. Which is just crazy to think. And yeah, there's been a couple of collections out there showing like what's been changed. I mean, some stuff I can argue, I'm like, yeah, it's perfectly fine to patch stuff like that out, because, like, you know, I get it. They're just trying to, you know, make it less controversial, as it says. So we have a variety of things. Most of the things we're going to see most commonly are things like panty shots when it comes to cats like Philia or any of the other characters, even though they stated, like, you know, these girls, they embrace their sexuality and all that and their image, and they're empowered by it. I'm like, cool, that's awesome, good for them. Now they're just kind of like backtracking a little, not backtracking, backpedaling or anything like that. It's just now they're just, you know, I guess in some areas they feel like it isn't needed, which is, I'm like, that's perfectly fine. They're not really going to bother me none. Another aspect is, of course, it's Paracel's army. Oh my goodness, what was it called? It's like the black something. I can't remember what the actual name of the army was, but yeah, one of the main things was they got rid of their bands, their red armbands, which, you know, you know, the way it's been designed is very much close to, you know, the Nazi design.
Germany.
That's
yes.
that's what it was based off of. They were very blunt about it, like from the beginning. It was very apparent, like that's like the similarities. That's where they're pulling from. Yeah, they're getting rid of all that.
They're called the Black Egrets.
Thank you. I was like, it's black something. I just couldn't think about it. So like armbands, any kind of showings of armbands in artwork, or any characters, background characters and such, they just straight up removed them.
Bro, so it's so stupid. I'm sorry. Like, at this rate, all right, get rid of the Red Ribbon Army. Go do that. Let me see you do that. Get rid of the Red Ribbon Army, which is blatantly based off of, I don't know, we'll say maybe a little, guy named Hitler, right? Maybe. But like my thing is,
this ain't making it to YouTube. No,
this might not.
No.
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. Like realistically, I think there's. It's weird. It's just weird.
It is.
Why?
Yeah.
12 years?
Yeah.
And now?
Well, it's the climate of today's. Today's.
But my thing is, why take it to Steam? Why not just keep it on Twitter, where all the garbage is anyway? Why do you have to put negative reviews on a game? Now it makes it look like the game is a bad game.
Oh, I mean, like I said, yeah, those 3,000 or whatever is whatever. It's a drop in the bucket.
It's whatever, but remember, just like a professional, like a person who has power, if you, like Steam to me, it has power. So if you look at it, if I go to look at a game, I'm not going to care how many reviews there is. If I see mostly negative, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to look at that game.
Well, here's the issue that I'm seeing. A lot of people are complaining that some of this content is stuff that they've already paid for, as in DLC. Like there's DLC that you paid for to get certain parts of content. Now, a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people on other pages and everywhere else are saying, oh, but all these people that are complaining are just weirdos and weirdos and weirdos. And it's like, well, if they are paying customers to a certain game that they paid for prior to, let's say, Mike Z leaving or anything else, well then, and that was the initial thing that they paid for at those times, it might have to stay in the game. After, I believe Mike Z was taken off after his 2 altercations of whatever was weird about him, which I'm not going to get into today. We've covered it before. There was, I believe people were rehired that worked on the game prior to the game, and therefore they were back in, and that's okay. My issue is that you're changing an old part of the game. You're already in Second Encore, and it's technically already a what is it? It's already a what's it called? A sequel, right?
Yeah. Like,
why can't you make the changes in a
Second Encore? Yeah.
But then why can't you make a changes in the 3rd iteration of the game?
We're technically in the 3rd iteration. That's why.
But at this point, you can be like, let's forget about the past. Let's create different outfits, different this, different that for our main characters that we know and love without having to change them too much, and just put it in a different perspective of either today's culture. Like that.
I mean, there's some stuff. There's some stuff, in my opinion, that should just be gone, right? Like, I don't know where all this stuff is coming from. Maybe the art books or something. But I mean, like, if I'm playing the game, I'm not seeing 100 of these pictures, right? Maybe if it's in the gallery. I just think the old stuff.
I honestly don't know how we got this far with a game with 8 characters like 10 years ago.
I'm just saying, Philly has been in the game since day one. Most of these shots have been there. Nobody's ever complained until now. So, I mean, like, well, cool. You complain, just make sure it's like, do a petition. Just do something that's like a little bit more structured instead of just going, let's go attack the game so that they get bad reviews on Steam. So then they have to change it so that the reviews are still there, which doesn't change it. Like, it doesn't change the fact that you just made bad reviews off of like a minor thing that they could have talked. I don't know, man. I just think that I've always known them to be very open to criticism. So I would think that you would bring it up to them in like a petition format or on Twitter. Like, hey, this is the amount of people who feel really uncomfortable with the fact that we paid for this game. Now we're getting all this weird content, instead of going to bash the game as a review. Like, I think that's stupid.
Wait, why was that removed?
But again, good.
Oh, okay. Some of that's funny. I'm like, that's funny. Like, that's,
I chuckled. Okay, I'm sorry. Barely Legal is kind of hilarious for some reason,
bro. See, oh my god, I didn't even know they got rid of that. Okay, so some of the stuff is just like it's oh man.
Is some of it the aesthetic of the game, or is some of it just really like off the cuff, like over the line, drawing the line stuff? You know what I mean?
But it was meant to be comedy. That's what the game is. It's based off of a movie reel in comedy sense, using comical characters, not real characters. So if you're taking offense to it, in my opinion, if you're taking offense to it as a like, oh my god, they're attacking me, I'm sorry, this is like cartoon characters. Like there's a lot of stuff that Bugs Bunny did back then that people would be very controversial about right now, but there's a reason why Bugs Bunny didn't last very long, because they just moved on from.
What do you mean Bugs Bunny didn't last very long?
After like now in this generation,
that's
nobody
a
really
whole
watches it.
First of all,
Bugs Bunny show is on right now.
I always be watching Bugs Bunny cartoons.
But you got to go back and watch old stuff.
Oh, I do all the time. That's the best. That's the best stuff.
And I'll use a great example. Tom and Jerry is actually something that made it this far into this generation, where they've toned a lot of stuff down.
Okay, now hear me out. A lot of changes have been going on to Skullgirls for a little bit of a while now. Obviously, they were a main game at EVO last year. I believe, I don't remember the numbers, but there was a low entrance for Skullgirls last year. Were they the last place
500
game?
Something?
I think it was 4. They were like sub 500. Maybe. And then this year, it's not a main game, but it's a side game. And there is a $5,000 pop-up. Now, with that being said, has the player base gone down? I mean, the player base is going to go down after a while, right? But then it's like, has the player base gone down after the Mike Z thing? Or has the player base gone down after so many changes were made? Like, when did it sort of shift? And, I mean, that's something to look at in terms of fighting games. Like, will there be a shift when they changed certain things? Like, there wasn't obviously a shift when Cammy's stance changed at the start of her intro, and ESPN, sort of did all their stuff with Armika's stuff. Well, no, Armika's butt slap got taken out, or the camera was taken up as she got into the game, as we got in the game.
Yeah, that got altered.
I mean, what was I saying in that part? That couldn't have shown a drop off of attendance of players playing, because it was from beta to the main game of 5. Go on, you were saying?
I was just gonna say Skullgirls had 295 players at EVO. I never define a community by the entrance of a tournament, because sometimes people can't go. That's just the truth.
Combo Breaker is usually the big one, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And the thing is, people have to also remember, during the time period of Mike Z and him leaving, that caused a lot of uproar for a lot of people to leave the game, as competitive players, as regular players, as casuals, and kind of not be happy with that. Now, it's slowly they've slowly worked their way to get people back into the game, which is, they've been doing a great job. So the community has been strong between, the Kill Sage and Sonic Fox and some other people running tournaments and doing all these things to help it. I don't think this is going to affect the competitive side. Is it going to affect the casual side? Possibly. I think this will help the casual side. I guess I don't really know who this is helping, but like, the competitive players are still going to play, right? It's more the story people, I guess.
After 10 years, I still want to try out Pain Wheel.
It's more about, it's really like the argument, whatever the argument be. A dev can do whatever they want with the game. Whatever slack they get from it is on them. But like, it's kind of the idea that I think people are getting mad at is the idea that it's like kind of anti-consumer. It's like, you own this game, right? And you like everything about it. Maybe you like the panty shots, maybe you like the artwork and everything is shown, maybe you just like all that. That's fine. If that's your thing, that's cool. The fact is that I bought this, and now a patch that was then put out there from a developer now could take away something I like about the game. Is like what got people a little bit more up and right. The specifics of it being Skullgirls, it's like whatever, like. And some of the stuff technically, and some of that stuff is like, does it really hurting anybody? Less Nazi stuff, that's bad. Oh my God, whoever that's affecting there's some serious issues there. Like, Philia is is like, people's arguments like, oh, they got a bunch of these shots with her, and they're like, well, she's 16. It's like, that's a minor. It's like, is that a bad thing? It's like, no, not really. No, it's like, it doesn't.
I mean, the shots didn't change.
The shots kind of didn't change, but then they fixed a bunch of other parts to it. But like I said, those are just really small specifics. I think the idea of it being like anti-consumer, it's like you're still affecting a product that I purchased, as far back as even 12 years. It's kind of crazy. Affecting it today due to today's climate change, it's kind of like, it's not new, to be honest. There's nothing new. There's things that there's things in society that get changed like that, like over time. That's just the way the world is. It's so weird that it's like that it happened in this particular game after so long. It's like, and it was just a very, very odd choice. But once again, the devs are trying to be more consumer friendly. They're trying to tone it down. It's like, it's their product at the same time too. But what I think they should have done, what I think should have just been done is whether or not you should just opt in for that patch or whatever, or even just enable or disable that. Have the ability to change that. If you don't like that type of shit, like there should be a piece in the menu that is be like censorship, or not. I don't say censorship, because censorship is a different case. Yeah, there's a different reasoning for censorship. Like, I don't know,
fucking or not adult content.
Exactly. Because there were other aspects of it that were like, Big Band, right? Like there's story stuff related there that is character related and could be relatable by someone, this and the other, and it isn't really a detriment. But now that you took that out, that representation's not there, and it's like, you made that conscious choice to do that and not give your consumer that choice.
But then if you say adult content, it's like, well, what adult content do you need with Germans in the panty shops? It's like,
it's.
I mean, obviously, but then there's other things. Like I said, there are parts of the game that people had put in their cash towards. Like I said, make a new game where you can take all of the stuff that you don't like, all of the extra things that you didn't like of your previous game, and rehash it. Look at Mortal Kombat. Did it change how many sales they were getting by covering up Melina and Katana and Sonya?
Yes.
No. That game is
no.
That game is still outselling most fighting games.
Yeah.
And even if the fighting is not to my liking, it's still outselling, and it's covering up most of what the lewd stuff we saw from Deception and on.
Yeah.
Even Mortal Kombat 9 was like, I mean, the Sonic Rock was still rocking that outfit of Melina.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna give you guys some insight real quick, and then we can move on to whatever else. So here's the problem with what they're doing. Normally, I would agree 100%. Let's say the game was for everyone. It was a Legos game. Totally get it. It is a teen rating. Blood, partial nudity, violence, use of tobacco, and mild language. So with that being said, you know what you're getting involved in. So I'm not saying it's a good thing, I'm not saying it's right, but if we're looking at it from that legal standpoint, they did everything right. Would it have been better if they just made it mature? Like Mortal Kombat? I don't know, but it's just something to really think about with the ESRB rating. And I do agree with you, Dre, on that. I that's what I was actually going to say, was the whole concept of just create a patch where it adds, you could turn it on or off. That's really it.
Yeah, it's I'm
like,
but the artwork stuff, the artwork
players.
I was just gonna say, with the artwork stuff that you paid for, that I don't know how to deal with that. Maybe you have to reissue out another issue of that.
Just it's a digital art book, man. Just get another PDF. Here's the more censored version. Like, all right, cool, that's fine, that's it. Like, I don't know why this went. This just got not deleted. Just like, if you pay for it, you get both. Whatever you pick, you pick whatever you want. You choose. Leave it to the consumer to make the choice. That's
you want the yellow Street Fighter or the red one?
Yeah, right. That'll keep it away from the devs from really being in those crosshairs. Like, I honestly think they should have just probably been more that route. But it's the choice that they made, and I honestly don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest. Like Meza said earlier, like, competitively, this is not really gonna matter to nobody at all. But this is more of the consumer thing. This is more for the casual. This is more moving towards whatever the image they're trying to portray, and that's fine. But it shouldn't have affected people that had already paid for the additional stuff like being affected, like the base game, whatever. But if you could have done it, just make it a toggle, let the consumer pick, and you're good.
I gotta say this because I just read some of it. A lot of the comments aren't even negative towards the actions that were. They're negative towards the actions that have been done, not what was already there. That's what's weird. So you're getting bad reviews from people who are like, you took this out of the game, and they're judging the company now. So it's not even the people.
Yeah, it isn't really.
That's so sad.
Yeah,
it's because when a company puts out their product to a certain way, it's like, all right, you're not marketing it to an audience necessarily. I mean, you are, obviously you want people to buy it, but it's more like a once you've taken a shot, let's say this, once you put the toothpaste out, you can't get the toothpaste back in it.
That's actually really good, Gabe.
That's very true. Very true.
Yeah.
But at least brush your teeth. That's all we ask.
Every day.
So, what did you guys think? Do you think the censorship, was needed? Do you think it could have been better off with just a toggle? Do you think a developer that is attacking these kinds of things to kind of tone things down because maybe they're adjusting to society's climate, if it's a good move or not? Let us know. It's definitely an interesting take, and I'm sure it's going to blow over. But in the meantime, though, it's currently in the hands of everyone that's kind of yelling at the cloud.